At 3:17 in the morning, a little boy knocked on a stranger's door, barefoot, shaking, wearing a hoodie 2 sizes too big. He looked up at the man who answered and whispered, "He said if I ever leave, I'll disappear." What that man did next would unravel a lie so deep it stretched across state lines, sealed records, and a locked garage hiding something no one was supposed to find. It would take a retired Army vet with nothing to lose, a missing paper trail, and a paper airplane crumpled in a little boy's hands, to finally bring it all to light. Harold Brenner didn't sleep much anymore. At 67, with 2 hip replacements and a military back that still cracked like a rifle when he stood too fast, he figured rest was more of a suggestion than a guarantee. His nights were quiet, predictable, just the way he liked them. He kept a pot of chamomile tea steeping after 10 p.m., listened to the police scanner his late wife used to tease him about, and occasionally wandered out to the front porch to check on the neighborhood he still saw as his to watch. Ever since retiring from the Army nearly 15 years ago, Harold had kept to himself in his neat little bungalow at the corner of Cypress Ridge, the kind of suburban street where every lawn had an opinion and every neighbor knew who left their trash out too long. He liked the quiet life. The dependable rhythm of old jazz records, the scent of the cedar tree just outside his window, the hum of the security light that flicked on if anyone stepped too close to the fence. But that summer, something was off. It started with the house next door. 112B, a place that used to belong to a sweet couple who moved to Florida to be closer to grandkids, according to the realtor's flyer. For a while it sat empty. Then came him, Rick Halter. The new man was younger, maybe late 30s, with a buzz cut that looked DIY and a truck that didn't have plates for the first few weeks. Harold noticed the first night he moved in that he never used the front door. Always came around back. He'd unload boxes when it was dark and kept the blinds pulled tighter than a boot camp bunk. And Harold wouldn't have thought too much about it, until he saw the boy. Thin. Always in a hoodie, even in the heat. Maybe 9 years old. The kind of small where it was hard to tell if he was just shy or scared. The first time Harold waved to him from across the driveway, the boy startled like he'd heard a gunshot. No wave back. No smile. Just wide eyes. He never spoke, not even when Harold tried again a few days later. It was like he wasn't allowed. That's when Harold started watching closer. The kid, who he later overheard being called Eli, never seemed to go to school. He'd appear outside only for chores, dragging heavy trash bags down the driveway, hosing down the back patio in long sweeps, standing still for hours like he was waiting to be told to move. No laughter. No games. Just silence and obedience. One evening, Harold was out tending to the garden bed by his porch when he heard it, yelling from inside 112B. Not just shouting, screaming. Something crashed. Then silence. 30 seconds later, the porch light flicked on, then off. Then on again. Harold stood still watching. He didn't imagine that. It blinked 3 times. Deliberate. Not a flicker. The next day, Eli showed up in the backyard pulling weeds. It was 92 degrees. His hoodie was zipped to the top. When he turned toward the fence, Harold saw the bruising on his neck. Finger width, blue fading to green. That was no accident. That was restraint. Harold's gut twisted the way it used to in combat zones. That sharp, electric edge that told him something bad was happening, and no one else was doing a damn thing about it. He pulled out the old notebook he used to log patrol routes back in Kabul and started making notes. Times, sounds, lights, Eli's chores, Rick's comings and goings. And then he made a phone call. May? It's Harold. I think something's wrong with the kid next door. May was in her 50s now, but Harold still thought of her as the sharpest soldier he ever trained. She worked child welfare now in a neighboring county after getting out of Army intel. If anyone knew how to pull a file quietly and read between the lines, it was May. Tell me everything, she said. He did. All of it. By the end of the call, she was already checking databases. You say his name's Eli? I'll see what I can dig up, she told him. But Harold, be careful. If this guy is dangerous and feels cornered. I didn't retire from the Army to let a kid get beat next door, he said simply. 2 days later, at 3:41 a.m., the doorbell rang. Harold didn't wake up slowly. He wasn't asleep. He'd been listening again. Waiting. The knock was soft. 3 quick taps. When he opened the door, Eli stood there. Hoodie half off, hair matted to his forehead. His nose was bleeding, but it had already started to dry. I don't know where to go, he whispered. He said if I ever left, I'd disappear. Harold's jaw locked. You're not disappearing, kid, he said, stepping aside. You're staying right here. Harold didn't sleep that night. Not a wink. Eli had fallen asleep almost instantly, curled up on Harold's couch like he was afraid to take up too much space. The hoodie was bunched around his waist, revealing pale arms dotted with old bruises and what looked like burns, thin and pink like faded rope marks. Harold didn't ask about them. Not yet. Instead, he sat in the armchair across the room watching the boy breathe, slow, uneven, like someone who wasn't used to rest. At 6:03 a.m. his phone rang. "Meh. Harold," she said, her voice sharp, already halfway into war mode. "That kid? He's not listed in any school district in a 50-mile radius. No birth certificate. No guardianship record for a Rick Halter either, not under that name. But get this, there's a man named Derek Hall flagged for moving state to state. Investigated 3 times for custody fraud, twice for abuse, and once for impersonating a legal foster parent. Charges never stuck. No convictions. But the addresses line up." Harold's stomach turned. "You think it's the same guy? I'd bet my pension on it. And the kid?" "Harold," she paused. "I think he was taken. From somewhere. Maybe even from someone." The words hit like a hammer. "He's safe here," Harold said quietly. "For now." The next 24 hours were a blur. Harold kept Eli hidden inside, blinds drawn, doors locked. He called in a favor from an old buddy at the sheriff's office, requesting extra patrols near the cul-de-sac just in case. The official story? Suspicious activity in the neighborhood. Unofficially? Be ready. May pulled more records, but everything came back with just enough red tape to keep Rick, or Derek, whatever his real name was, off the radar. He was slippery. The kind of guy who knew exactly where the system broke and how to squeeze through the cracks. Meanwhile, Harold tried to get Eli to talk. Not interrogate, just talk. But the boy barely said a word. At one point, he quietly asked if he could have his hoodie back. "Why?" Harold asked. "He always made me wear it," Eli said. "So people wouldn't see. But I don't like it." That was all he said. Harold didn't press. He just folded the hoodie and placed it in a drawer out of sight. That afternoon, something strange happened. Harold was on the porch pretending to prune his tomatoes, more for cover than anything else, when he noticed the neighbor 2 houses down, Linda Myers, walking her little dog past 112B. She was frowning, staring. When she saw Harold, she made a beeline for him. "You haven't seen that man lately, have you?" she asked. Harold raised an eyebrow. "I see him too often," he said. Linda glanced back at 112B. "He was hammering something into the side of the garage last night. Way past midnight. I only caught it because I take Ginger out when she's restless. Looked like boards. Like he was sealing something up." Harold's jaw tightened. "Thanks, Linda," he said. "That's helpful." He went back inside and wrote it down in the notebook. Midnight. Hammering. Garage wall. Eli didn't say much when Harold mentioned it, just clutched the arm of the couch a little tighter. That night, around 10:47 p.m., Rick came back. Harold watched from the upstairs window. The man pulled into the driveway with no headlights on, cut the engine, and sat in the truck for a full 5 minutes before moving. When he finally stepped out, he wasn't holding groceries or tools, just a black duffel bag. He didn't go inside. He went to the garage. Harold's fingers tensed against the windowsill. Rick stayed out there for over an hour. At 3:15 a.m. it happened. Bang, bang, bang. Pounding on Harold's front door. Eli jolted awake, sitting straight up on the couch like he'd been shocked. "Don't open it," he whispered. Harold didn't move right away. He waited. Rick's voice came through the door, low and venomous. "I know he's in there, you old freak. He doesn't belong to you." Harold stepped forward. "Come. Controlled. You need to leave." "Or what?" Rick growled. "You gonna call your soldier friends? This ain't your war anymore, pal. That kid's mine." "No," Harold said. "He's not." The silence that followed was worse than yelling. Harold tightened the lock just in case. Then he reached for the drawer by the stairs. Inside, his late father's service pistol, locked and legal, untouched for nearly a decade. He didn't want to use it. But if Rick broke that door down, he'd be ready. Then just like that, footsteps retreating. Truck starting. Gone. "May," Harold said the next morning, pacing the kitchen, "we're running out of time." She agreed. "I've escalated it. Got DHS on it. They're sending someone out today, 4:30 p.m. sharp." "Will that be fast enough?" "We'll make it fast enough," she said. But by 3:15 Rick still hadn't come back. By 3:45 the patrol car May sent pulled onto the street, parking discreetly behind a hedge. At 4:29 Harold made tea for Eli. Sugar and milk. No questions asked. At 4:32 the knock came at the door. Not Rick. Not a cop. Meh. In person. She stepped inside, took one look at Eli, and her whole face changed. I know that kid, she whispered. That's the boy from the Northville case. He went missing last year. His aunt had custody. There was a break-in. Police thought it was random. Nobody ever found him. Eli looked up. Aunt Julie, he said. She had freckles. And blue curtains. That's all he remembered. May's face paled. Oh my God, she whispered. That man didn't just fake papers. He stole him. Harold's hands trembled. Not from fear, from rage. That deep, buried kind that bubbles slow and hot. The kind he trained his whole life to keep tamped down. Eli sat in the armchair, gripping the edge like the floor might fall away. His plastic cup of tea was half spilled in his lap, but he hadn't moved to clean it. May stood frozen at the kitchen doorway. We need backup, she muttered, fumbling for her phone. We need a full team. If he really took this kid across state lines. But she didn't finish. Because just then headlights swept across the front porch. Harold turned to the window in time to see Rick's truck lurch to a stop, crooked tires chewing into his lawn. He wasn't parking. He was storming. Get him into the back room, Harold said, already moving. May led Eli quickly, her voice calm but tight. Stay low. Don't say anything unless I tell you. Understand? The boy nodded, knuckles white around the sleeves of his hoodie. Rick didn't knock this time. Crack. He kicked the door hard. Harold met him before he could kick again. Rick's face was a storm cloud. You're done playing hero, he snapped. That boy's mine. I don't care what kind of soldier you used to be. Harold didn't flinch. You touch this door again, he said, and you're gonna meet the man I used to be. Rick's lip curled. You don't know what that boy is. What he knows. You don't know who I work for. That stopped Harold cold. He stepped outside, shutting the door behind him. You saying you're not working alone? Rick tilted his head. You think I picked him up by accident? You think there aren't people looking for kids like that? No records, no family left who'll fight it. Harold's gut twisted. This wasn't just abuse. This was trafficking. He moved first. He grabbed Rick by the wrist, the one he'd seen him favor, and yanked hard, pulling the man off balance and slamming him against the porch post. Rick grunted, swung wide, but Harold ducked and drove a shoulder into his gut, knocking the wind out of him. They crashed to the grass. Harold pinned him fast, one knee on his back, one hand twisting Rick's arm at an angle that made him howl. Make it easy, Harold hissed. Or I'll give you a limp to remember me by. From inside the house, May stepped out, badge in one hand, her phone in the other. Saw everything, she called to the dispatcher. Battery. Trespassing. Threats to a minor. Get me 2 units now. Rick spat into the dirt. You don't get it, he coughed. They'll just send someone else. Let him try, Harold growled. This street's got a new watchman. An hour later, the house was crawling with uniforms. 2 marked cruisers, 1 plainclothes detective, and a woman from DHS named Valerie who brought warm blankets and spoke gently to Eli, like she'd done this before. Harold sat on the porch with an ice pack on his knuckles. His ribs ached, his jaw throbbed. But it was done. Rick was in the back of a cruiser, cuffed and howling about confidential buyers and operational immunity. No one was listening. The real twist? When the detectives searched Rick's garage, they found a false wall. Behind it, binders. Dozens. Full of names, photos, dates, children, travel routes, foster paperwork. All fake. It wasn't just Rick. It was a network. And Eli? He was just one file among many. But the only one still alive and safe, thanks to Harold. May handed Harold a folder later that night. Inside were Eli's real records, what little there were. And a grainy photo of a woman, taken outside a clinic in Nevada. She was the last to report him missing, May said. Julie Harmon. His aunt. Harold held the photo for a long moment. Where is she now? Still looking, May replied softly. Didn't stop. Didn't give up. That night, Harold let Eli sleep in the guest room again. No questions. No promises. But when the boy finally fell asleep, Harold stood at the doorway and whispered the words he used to tell his own son, before the deployment he never returned from. You're safe. No one's getting through me. 3 months later. The porch light clicked on as Harold opened the screen door. The fall breeze had a bite now. He looked down to see Eli sitting on the steps in a new hoodie, one that actually fit. He held something out. Harold took it. A crumpled paper airplane. Written in pencil on the side, "Thank you." Harold smiled. "Want to go throw it?" Eli nodded. They walked into the yard, 2 shadows under the porch glow, and let the wind catch the plane. The end. If this story hit you, if you believe in people who protect those who can't protect themselves, tap that like button, subscribe, and let us know where you're watching from. Thanks so much for being here.